Okay, so 3 minus 1, right? Okay, so whenever you have a snare duet or anything involving multiple snare drums, you want to make sure the snare drums sound different, so you hear the different parts come out. And since you guys have different parts, if they were both the same, then you wouldn't really hear the differences in the different parts if they both sounded the same. So what you guys have right now is good. And I do generally recommend playing, you know, if you have the top part, you want your drum to be a little higher. So right now we already have that. Your snare drum sound very different. That's good. Okay. So let's just have you run through it. Try not to stop. I mean, if it falls apart, it falls apart. But try not to stop. Try to just get through the whole thing and let me listen to it, and we'll see what we need to work on. Okay. Start whenever you're ready. Count it off. However you're going to count it off. I'm just going to watch. So Evan, what I would do is instead of doing stick clicks or anything like that, if you're the one counting it off, think ahead of time, like what you want it to sound like. So you want it to sound like this. Da, da, ba, 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 da, da, ba. That's about the tempo you want, right? So get that in your head, and then I would suggest counting off like this, just kind of under your breath, making sure she's paying attention. You know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Try doing that. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, go. The good news is because you guys actually sound pretty good. The main issues that I'm seeing throughout the piece is it seems like you guys just need to play it together more. Individually, you guys are playing your parts pretty well. I'm hearing the dynamics, the accents are popping out. Those are always like my first things that I look at, and you guys are doing that stuff well. Like I said, the only issues I'm really seeing is just it doesn't seem like you guys have practiced enough together. So, so you just need to do more of that. The ending was a little bit rough. So if I'm starting here, that's what it should be. You guys kind of just rushed that ending because I don't think you knew how it was supposed to go. That's your part. Coco, your part is... So let's do the last two measures, that one and the second inning. Okay? 1, 2, 3. You're having a rush into that triplet. And that rest is really important. Now I was, especially when I'm teaching younger people how to count and read music and stuff, I always tell them that a rest, yes, you rest during it. You don't play anything during it, but it's still really, really important. You need to make sure it's in time. You still have to count it. So it's still part of the music. It's just an absence of sound. So it still needs to be there. So Evan, when you get to that, you gotta count that and in your head. Don't just rush into it. Especially when you have a whole bunch of notes like this. You have some faster notes in here. So whenever you do have rest, the tendency is to want to collapse that space down so it's shorter than it actually is. That space is really important. So let's do those two measures again. 1, 2, 3, go. Good. That was a lot better. So you just have to play it that way. Any issues with that? Good? Alright, now Coco, you kind of dropped out, I think it was here, but after counting you off and getting you going again, I don't think it's because you really have a problem with it. I think maybe you're just not used to playing with that. Yeah. Am I right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so as long as you recognize that.
Right here is one of the biggest. Where we go.
Well, that sounded good. You guys sound like we're together. Now, a lot of this is pretty tight. You guys are playing well together, which is good. That's like one of the hardest things with a piece like this, is you got two different people with two different personalities who've been practicing it separately, and you're going to interpret some of this stuff a little bit differently normally. But you guys actually did this quite well together. We just need to tighten it up. And so that kind of boils down to you guys playing together more. I did notice some things, like for instance here was a G. It wasn't bad, but you guys are having trouble keeping the time steady when you go from like the 60 notes to the 60 note triplets.
That's why how do you choose now fasting?
Yeah, because like
Okay, so that's you, right? Do you turn it off at any point? Okay. So you have to turn it off there. So you're coming out of this, right? So see how I did that? I know it's fast, you just gotta get used to it, like you do it like on the and, for instance. Turn it off with your left hand since you're starting with your right hand here. So that's something you have to practice. People don't think about things like this, but like little issues like that, you have to practice that the same way you practice the notes that you're actually playing. It's just part of it. Yeah, let's start from this measure. So what we're doing is instead of playing a whole section and taking up a lot of time, because we know you can play all that, we're working out the transition. You want to work, usually transitions are going to be the spots where you're going to mess up, so you want to work out those transitions first. You don't need to play big chunks of music just to work out that transition. Work out the transition, and once you feel like it's getting pretty good, then work on that section of music. So let's start here, and let's just play this measure and this measure. Okay, so right now your snare's on. Coco, just practice this for a second. You're going to do this. Just step by yourself. Hit, off.
wait, okay.
Alright, so you're wanting to turn it off with your right hand.
Yeah.
Which is okay, I guess. Yeah, I was reading the sticking wrong. I would still turn it off with your left hand, but what you got to do is get used to doing this. Yeah, and what's cool though about this snare throw off switch is you don't have to grab it. You can literally just pump it off. You know how I did that? I didn't even grab it or anything. You know, if you had one of the latch ones, sometimes those can be a challenge. But that's easy. And I'm making some noise with it now because I'm just being aggressive. But, you know, as you get better at it, you want to try to avoid the noise. Don't worry about that. So try just that part. Yeah, and then you just got to play the next part correct. Straight. Good. So you can practice that on your own. Okay, so what we're going to do is both of you guys here, just those two measures, we're just working out that transition. 1, 2, and go. So you didn't turn it off the way we practiced.
Yeah.
So you gotta think ahead about that. Now speaking of which, the tempo I counted it off was where you want to be. You guys immediately played that slower. But I don't think that you played it slower because you can't play it up to speed. I got the impression as you played it slower because both of you were being kind of timid about it.
Yeah.
Just jump into the tempo, play what you know. You guys may need to practice it on your own some more. You don't need me to stand here and wave my hands for it, okay? So let's look at starting here, and you can go ahead and practice your off part, you know, on, off, da, 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 da. Okay? So we're going to start here, do this measure, this measure, this measure, and this measure, and then stop. We're just going to work up through the first inning. Okay? Get that one. Okay? 1, 2, 3, go. Good. Coco, I think you freaked out a little bit and jumped into that because he's playing these notes fast, and then there's a little bit of space. You don't technically have a rest, but what you need to do is wait that whole rest and then play beat 2. Ba-da-da-da, 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 ba-da-da-da. Try that. Actually, just start. Start here and go to there. 2 measures. 1, 2, and go. So you guys need to rehearse that a bunch and tighten that up. Let's start at the same spot here and do those 4 measures through the first inning again. Here, 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 here. Okay? So your snares are on, so you gotta turn that off. 1, 2, and go. So Coco, you know you don't stop, you just gotta keep going.
Yeah, it's because I messed up with like this.
I know you messed up, but you know, if I'm your audience, I don't care if you messed up. If you fake your mess up to me, I won't know.
Okay.
I make mistakes all the time, but most musicians do. What you have to practice and get good at is not letting that stop you, and you got to play through the mistake and act like it never happened. Sometimes we forget that by learning music, we're actually learning how to perform and be a performer and be an entertainer. Later on, you know, it'll make a little bit more sense to you. Right now, you're in middle school, you're just learning to play music in concerts, but you're really still an entertainer. So regardless of whether you play something right or not, you do the best you can to try to keep it going and fake the mistake. I do this constantly, and I'm pretty good at it. Most people don't know when I mess up. I know when I mess up, but I used to be very self-conscious about it. Like, I used to be like, oh man, I messed up, I gotta play through the mistake. Now I'm like, all right, I made a mistake, no big deal. I make mistakes all the time, just keep going. You know, and most people don't even know. Like, I've played so many really, really long gigs with so many mistakes in it, but you just play through them, and then at the end of the gig, I've gotten like lots of compliments and stuff, and I don't tell them, oh, I messed up all over the place. You know, I just tell them, thank you. You know, accept the compliment. That's a part of performing. Okay, let's do the same spot. So your snares are on. You got to turn that off. 1, Not now.
Oh, that.
You're gonna turn it off after that quarter. 1, 2, 3, go. Alright, that's a lot better. Okay, now Coco knows this, you didn't know this. I'm videotaping this, but your faces aren't in it. I'm videotaping this more for me so I can use this to teach other students. The comments that I give you, I show to other people. When you're preparing things like this, as much as you're able to, perform it in front of anybody. Doesn't matter who it is, it could be your parents, it could be your friends, it could be Mr. McConnell, whoever's available. The more you perform it in front of people, it kind of chips away at that nervousness that you might have when you have to go perform it for real for the first time you're actually judged on it. But, you know, videos help with that too, because you know you're under the radar. You know whatever's being captured is you playing it right, but also you playing it wrong. And so that's kind of like performing, okay? I'm not intending on doing anything with this except for just teaching purposes, but if you can videotape yourself and show it to other people, that's good. If you can perform in front of other people, that's good. And that'll just help you be more prepared for Saturday, which is just 2 days away, okay? I think you guys will be fine as long as you make time to practice together, okay? So I think we need to leave these snare drums in here because I got to get a couple other guys that are playing snare stuff. But until you're called for your ensemble, go ahead and just spend time practicing through the sections you guys feel like you're not as comfortable with. You can go in the hallway or wherever you go. Okay? But I think you guys are in a good spot. If you practice together, I don't see any reason why you guys shouldn't get superior. Just work on the timing, make sure the transitions are good,